Hey, Pete Rivera here, aka Pete the Peptide Guy at the podcast Lane. And today I have a very special guest, and that is Shelby Ikeda. How are you doing,
Good.
Shelby?
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for being here.
Of course.
So, you have a very interesting business, and the word ecosystem is in there. And thought it was something different. And then you explained to me right prior to this going live that it's very different. So, I want to let you explain that to the audience, okay?
One of the things I think people, and the simplest way I can explain it is let's say you have Windows and Apple, right? You have PC and Mac, like that battle of the in ecosystems, wouldn't you say? And what I always love, because I did come from Apple, so I'm totally biased in that sense. But what I loved about Apple is their ecosystem. It didn't matter what technology innovated and changed, it complemented and enhanced the features around it. Not one tool was going left and going right. They all worked together. And when we think about entrepreneurship and business, it's not okay, here's my business hours and here's my life hours. As entrepreneurs, it is our ecosystem. It's that harmony balance. So you're going to pivot from here. I might do a dance recital this moment, and then I might be on my laptop in the car doing some reports, right? And so people think that I need that work life balance, but you have to be in the right ecosystem so you're not being pulled in 20 different directions. And the way software is going, everyone is coming out with their new tool or this AI thing that now they're becoming coders and developers. And it's not a bad thing. It's giving more opportunities, and that's how I have to look at it. However, what I don't like is that that's all people see. And I always tell people that's marketing. You're seeing them selling their great marketers, but just because they're a great marketer doesn't mean that their solution is going to be helping you scale and live a better life, grow better relationships. And so your ecosystem has to support not just business, but also does it support your life? And when you realize that it also just supports your life as well, then you're not going to just quit the system when business is doing wrong, right? Or business is not so great that month. Will always use it because you're applying it's almost like a life hack, so to speak. You're able to say, okay, well, if I can create automated postcards every single month for Christmas, but I can also translate that same knowledge to use it for business, then it's a worth skill, but it's also a worth investment. And so when we build ecosystems for our businesses and our brands, that's exactly what we do. And so that's why I said it's a little bit we look as a software company, we look at the whole infrastructure. And what was crazy is as a mom, I just naturally did that because I was like, well, why would I just do it for business if it makes my life easier as a mom and I can automate their play dates and automate this? Like, why wouldn't I? Right.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, you don't think of it that way as such a system, right? As you're doing, your daily tasks. So you're kind of putting them in a line and trying to, solve one problem after another. Um, you mentioned something prior before about fire, um, and explain that to me.
Absolutely. So this happened recently, and I think as a former, still sometimes moment of a people pleaser, right? I think some moments we've all been there, and I just wanted to put out their fire and fix And one of my great friends said, "Their fire is not your fire," and I was like, "You're right," because it's not, especially when you work in IT. It's like I'm at a position, I've been doing this for pretty much a decade, right? And so, yes, I can put out their fire, but is that the best choice for my business, right? And so, what I've learned over the last decade is what I've built is we have the fire department. We built the fire department so that if you have a fire, the team is going to come in and rescue you, right? Not Shelby as the solo entrepreneur fighting that fire, because if life happens, because it has happened to me, right? Because having a daughter with special needs and her literally our life is perfect, picture perfect, and then her heart goes into heart failure. So I knew that the journey that I was on, this could happen again. And so I've always learned anything that I've built, I had to build an ecosystem of support. And I know some people, they're like, well, I have amazing family. I didn't have that. And so I had to hire and build that team. And the ecosystem is not just software tools. And I think people think it's just tech stack. It's also the relationships we build, the people, the staffing we build, finding the right candidates who actually understand their specialty and niche and not being a jack of all trades. Because when someone's a jack of all trades, especially in business or like they're your main assistant, and you lose that assistant. How do you pivot as a business owner? It's hard.
Yeah.
You feel like,
Mhm.
oh my God, I can't survive. But if you organize it differently and say, you know what, I'm going to train them to just do my domains and just do this. So when they do get sick, because unfortunately your business is not as important in it as it is to you, or your personal life is not as important to someone else, right? And in the earlier days, I would hire other heart moms and I loved helping them. But when their heart baby had issues, my business suffered. And I was like, shoot. And so I learned at an early age from seeing what I saw at Apple is Apple did a great job building amazing ecosystems, that they have promoters that will always love Apple because of what they've built in like I can go to an Apple or a or my phone and the ecosystem is the same. The familiarity. So if I pivot left and pivot right, it won't matter because the ecosystem is structured in a way to make those pivots and shifts.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and it makes perfect sense. You know, I called it agility. So definition of agility is changing angles without compromising speed, right?
Mhm.
Because in life you have to do that, and in business you have to do that. So you've created that, which is really great. Because if you don't have those systems in, and one person leaves, then there's a drop off. Then you have to step into that spot, and then that other spot you left just drops off. Then things start crumbling,
Yeah.
right, very quickly and rapidly. Um, so explain to me the chores needs framework thing.
Yeah. So it's something, so our brains can't handle more than three focuses at a time. And if you think of, oh,
I
yeah.
can only do one focus.
Well, so in three buckets, right?
Right.
One focus, but three kind of buckets at the same time. So there's three kind of priorities. Like if you think about your friends group, like or customers, there's three pillars of people, three levels of communication. And I'm very I have to have certain focus to keep it simple because after three, I don't remember it, but I can always think for whatever reason, I can always think in levels of three. But what I love about that, so you have, and it was actually from one of my amazing mentors, and he said, Shelby, because I am totally ADD, and so I'm running a million projects, and so he said, you have your chores, your needs or your needs and then ask. And so your chores are those daily things that you might dread, right? That posting on social media. And you have to write those down, but not in a way that eventually those chores can be automated. So then those chores lists then move over to the needs. I need to automate it, right? It might be something I can do right now and I'm okay with it. But if life happened tomorrow, would you be okay doing that chore? But you need to do that chore because it is part of your business. Because if you don't, so you have to move those needs when you can do it, great, but eventually move it to say if it's becoming a pain, then you move it to the needs category. You need to put it into automation. You need to find a way where a person or someone else is now taking care of that chore. And then you have the ask. And the ask bucket is your projects. You can only ask for two projects at a time that you're working on. Because the moment you do more than two or three, you'll never get those project lists done. And that was a hard lesson for me this last year because my mentor was like, you can't do all these projects. I'm like, I know you'll never get any project done. So I kind of implemented that framework just in my own spin. And it has definitely allowed me to, when I consult with clients, I say the same framework and it helps them identify what's actually a fire and not a fire or their fire, they think it's like life or death for their business. They don't do this. And then they're realizing, oh, it's not. So it's actually a great framework to kind of explain, hey, I'm doing this too. It's not a fire. It's not something that you want it done. It's a want, right? It's a ask for later,
Right.
right?
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense, and I probably only have one bucket, and they're all mixed in there. Um, but you know, you make it sound just so perfectly placed and everything else, and that's what I'm guessing working with you is like. How does somebody find you to come work with you?
Absolutely. So one of our main, we have a free community out called Modern Mom CEO because we're redefining motherhood through systems and solutions. And because it's not just about your business, business is a part of your life. And why are we in business? We're in business to have a better life for our family, for that next generation, to change. change the way we want better for our families. Like, because there's no reason why we just do business because we love money. Yes, money can be great, but we do it because of that. Modern Mom mmceo.me is gets access to our free community app, and Modern Mom CEO is where you can find us on Facebook and Instagram.
Well, Shelby, this has been a wealth of information. Now I know what an ecosystem is and isn't. So thank you very much for joining. It
Absolutely.
was a pleasure meeting you.
Yes, you too.